Can musicians master their own music? Well, yes, I think we can, but there are definite pros and cons to doing it ourselves versus hiring a specialist mastering engineer. In this video, we will discuss what the fundamental differences between mixing and mastering are, how we can self-master our own music, and also the benefits to using a third-party mastering engineer. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you a very quick and easy way you can self-master your own tracks and prepare them for social media and clients using the brand new studio rack from Waves. And then later on in the video, I'm going to hand over to my friend Jon Wright, guitarist, writer and producer, who's going to give you a more advanced explanation of how you can master tracks at home. You'll have heard the terms mixing and mastering brandished around in the same sentence, and the two phrases are often conjoined together as an umbrella term for music production. These are, however, very different processes, and having an understanding of them both is really useful. Mixing, as you're all aware, is the process of blending multiple sources of audio into one cohesive sound. This involves adjusting the dynamic levels of various instruments, adjusting the panning for where they sit in the stereo image of your track, and also adding effects such as reverb and delay to further enhance the listening experience. Mastering is the process of preparing audio for its final destination, be it a vinyl record, a CD, or a WAV or MP3 for digital distribution. It involves similar processes to mixing, which is where the lines blur between the two processes. Equalization and limiting are applied to the master audio file to smoothen out the frequency response and generally boost the overall level of the track. Mastering, however, requires highly perceptive ears sensitive to the very subtle nuances of compression and EQ. The advantage of using a specialist mastering engineer is to utilize a third-party set of ears. It's easy to get bogged down in the mix for days, weeks, and even months, tweaking that snare sound to the nth degree, and it's very easy to lose perspective of the overall track. So getting an external and neutral, and most importantly, a fresh perspective can be invaluable on how your track sounds. And mastering engineers are likely to be working in professionally acoustically treated listening environments. In addition, they will also have extremely high quality speakers worth tens of thousands of pounds and dollars, which provide a level of detail that simply isn't found in most home studio speakers. So what are the main differences? Mixing engineers will use compression to attenuate audio peaks and to control output. Compression by its very nature generally involves lowering the overall volume of the audio. In comparison, a mastering engineer will push the overall level of the track into a limiter, thus increasing its overall volume. Most mastering engineers will use a combination of what's known as in-the-box and out-of-the-box processing. In-the-box involves using plugins, which you or I can do at home, and out-of-the-box usually involves using expensive analog hardware gear to add classic analog warmth and harmonic distortion to color the sound. These guys will often use both very effectively, but it's not always something we can replicate in a home studio. This outboard gear can be frightfully expensive and cost thousands upon thousands of pounds, meaning it's just not accessible for someone definitely like myself. So it's often worth using these mastering engineers just to utilize their equipment. Right, using my recently released song I Wish as an example, we're going to explore a quick and easy way we can self-master using the brand new Studio Rack plugin from Waves. There's a link for that in the description below. Check it out, it's a really good plugin. And then we're going to hand over to Jon for a more detailed, in-depth, advanced technique. Here we are in my Logic I Wish master session, and I've got my I Wish mix here, which I've imported straight out of my mixing session. On my master bus, you'll see I've got a couple of plugins already here, and one of them is Ozone 9. I don't want to talk about Ozone 9 today, I may do another video on that, but it's a very good mastering suite. It comes with a whole load of plugins built in, designed for mastering. You can move these around and change the order of those plugins, etc. Some of them sound better than others, as far as I can tell so far, but this whole plugin suite is geared towards mastering. This is a few $100s or pounds, so it's a more expensive option than the one I'm going to show you, but it is something worth bearing in mind and investigating if you're going to take this a bit more seriously. Anyway, down to the Waves Studio Rack. I've got a Waves Studio Rack set up already, but we're going to come back to that. Firstly, I want to show you just how easy this is to get set up and mastering. So, Studio Rack has a load of presets, including artist presets, including this one from Dave Darlington, and he happens to have a master bus preset. So if we load that up, the first thing we have is an SSL G-bus compressor there. That's tickling away at about a decibel's worth of compression. Then we have the multi-band split feature here. Now the multi-band split and the parallel split feature are really great tools that Studio Rack has utilized incredibly well. I've done another couple of videos on Studio Rack where I go into these features in more detail. I will leave links for those videos in the description below. But basically what you'll see Dave Darlington has done here is selected 2 frequency bands here and applied a little bit of compression to those 2 frequency bands. Next up, he has a linear phase EQ. That's not doing too much except attenuating sound below 32 Hertz there. Then we have a linear phase EQ, and he's chosen to push between 1 and 2K there. I'm actually going to bypass these because I don't think they're doing too much. And then there's an L3 maximizer, and this is a great plugin. Again, we can split up the frequencies and select different bands and how much you want to press, how much you want to push those frequencies into the limiter or not. Then we have a loudness meter, the WLM, the Waves loudness meter. This is great for measuring our LUFS levels. Jon is going to go into a bit more detail on his perspective of these later. The general suggestion is to aim for a level of -14 LUFS. This is a standardized number that's been generated based on human perception of volume to standardize the volume of tracks across the streaming services, so no tracks stand out louder than others. There's a lot of debate about this, whether you need to stick to this rigidly or whether it's flexible or etc. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. I generally aim for -14, but if it goes up to -12, that's fine, and I think Jon even takes his tracks to -10. He'll talk about that a bit more later on. At the end there, we have a VU meter just to check we're not clipping any signal. So let's hear the track without this plugin in place. So immediately the obvious thing is it is boosting the overall level. That's basically what we want, but it's also smoothing out the frequencies and gluing everything together a little bit. Now what I've done is taken this a little bit further, and I have added in a Chris Lord Algae Mix Hub plugin. Now this is a great plugin. It's based on an SSL channel strip desk, and there's a few extra features as well, and I've just tweaked the EQ in a couple of places to my own preference. Let's hear how that sounds.
I wish I could wear my heart on my sleeve to show you these feelings and let you come into my world.
Now this Studio Rack plugin is free, and it comes with the multi-band split and the parallel split features included, but you will need to purchase some of the Waves plugins to use in the Studio Rack. Now I personally highly recommend the Chris Lord Algae Mix Hub. This is a good sounding plugin, and there's loads of features, and you can use this on instrument buses, individual instruments. It just sounds good. The L3 maximizer is really good, and I would suggest getting the level meter as well. Let's see that in action.
I need it to guide me through the dark. I need it to love me the...
And one great feature of this is you can pin these, so every time you open the plugin, these will automatically come up in place. So let's get rid of that. They disappear. Let's pull them back up, and the plugins I've pinned will automatically come up in place. That's really useful. So yes, you do need some Waves plugins, but compared to something like Ozone 9, which is £300 or £400 or dollars, I believe, you could buy 5, maybe 6 plugins. You'd be well set up for mastering. A list of these plugins will be in the description below. Right, I'm going to hand you over to Jon.
Ed Thorne, you handsome devil. Jon here. As you know, I'm a guitar player, producer, and I'm doing quite a lot of mixing now as well. I don't call myself a mastering engineer. That's a very specific role, but I do finalize tracks for my clients when they want me to, which basically means checking it on a bunch of different systems, making sure the EQ is relatively well balanced, or as well balanced as I can get it, and of course bringing it up to a kind of appropriate loudness, which usually involves limiting. So I use a little bit of hardware for that and a little bit of software for it. I'm going to take you through what I've done with your track. I hope you like it, and I'm going to show you this project here. Right, you're up there now. I'm miraculously wearing headphones, and we've got the mic here. It's amazing, isn't it, how this stuff happens? We are going out of the box. We're going into... This really would depend on the track itself, but we're going, in this case, into Valve EQ, which is an Avalon AD2055. Lovely EQ, lovely top end, lovely low end. But since we've gone out of the box, the settings are on the screen there, but since we're going out of the box, I thought, why not run it through the Loop Trotter Monster, which is like a Valve compressor and saturator. Now, I'm not using the saturation section. I wouldn't do that in this situation at all, but it is just running through, maybe taking off a dB or two here or there, which just adds a little bit of density to the track, because the track is very clean and quite sterile. Lovely balanced mix, but that's something that I thought maybe I'd be able to add to it a little bit, and you might like the results. I hope so. So through the hardware, back in, and then we're looking at another EQ here, which is the Nova, which lovely, clean, simple EQ. Probably just the same as Logic's EQ, but I like the fact that you can use a dynamic EQ on this. Not doing that in this case, but we've got a cut here at 360 and another cut at like 1600, just rolling off a tiny bit of top end as well, above 10k. Then the Vice DS1 Mark III, fantastic compressor, great for just sticking on the master bus. You can use the limiter on this, but I actually prefer the, I mean, it's the same algorithms apparently, but I prefer the MM1, which is the Maxring Mastermizer. It's just so easy, and you just set it. I use, in this case, just using the loud setting, turn up the gain, that's how much. Right, it's knocking off maybe 5 dB tops there, like some of those big hits.
Don't give up this fight. Don't give up this fight.
We got a couple of dB coming off on the compression section of the DS1, and that, my friend, is it. Just finally, a word about loudness. A lot of people talking about don't go over -14 lufs. I'm not in that camp at all. I think it's more a case of just looking to find the level of limiting that sounds right for the track. I use this Uline loudness meter and the Logic multimeter. Super useful. We're up at -10 lufs, which for me is not a bad place to be. If you want to limit it for that compactness and that energy, I say go ahead and do it. Get it sounding good. Get it out there. I hope that's helpful. Thanks for asking me to have a look at this, Ed. I can't wait to see how it shapes up against the others that you're getting done. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon, my friend, and thank you very much.
Wicked. Thanks, John. Be sure to check out John's social links in the description below, including his own YouTube channel. If you guys have been mastering your own music, feel free to drop links in the comments below. I'm interested to hear how you've been processing this and what you guys have been up to. In the meantime, thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you all on the next one.